Bom dia, pessoal, sejam todos bem-vindos a mais uma transmissão, nosso canal WillPTV. Estão trazendo para vocês hoje o processo então de início da saída então da cápsula da Dragon, né, pela missão então Axiom-2, direto então da Estação Espacial Internacional. A escotilha, hoje mais cedo, então a escotilha já foi fechada e a nave já está então pronta para deixar então a Estação Espacial Internacional, que está prevista para acontecer ao 12h05 no horário de Brasília. Nós vamos então acompanhar todo o procedimento aí de saída da nave da Dragon, da SpaceX, da sua saída na Estação Espacial Internacional. Ontem, né, nós acompanhamos aí toda a missão todos os procedimentos então da decolagem da missão Chang'e-16, né, da China, né, missão tripulada chinesa. E hoje então pela manhã já tivemos aí então a confirmação de que a tripulação já se encontra aí na Estação Espacial de Tiangong. Então já estamos ao vivo aí com a transmissão em conjunto com a SpaceX e NASA. Então, dados o início aí do procedimento então de encerramento da missão de hoje, da Axiom-2, após então 8 dias em órbita na Estação Espacial Internacional. Lembrando que no total eles vão ficar 10, porque 10 dias no espaço, né? Porque a splashdown só vai acontecer amanhã, né, no início da madrugada de amanhã. De acordo então com o cronograma da SpaceX, né, vai acontecer à meia-noite 2, né, no horário de Brasília, 11h02, então 23h02 no horário do leste. O splashdown então vai acontecer na Flórida. E agora então na parte da manhã nós vamos então acompanhar todo o procedimento de undocking, né, da desacoplagem da cápsula Dragon na Estação Espacial Internacional, que está previsto então para acontecer ao 12h05 no horário de Brasília. E o splashdown então vai acontecer apenas no início da madrugada do dia 31. No caso, no horário aqui do Brasil. Então que a tripulação da Axiom-2 ficou aí a bordo da Estação Espacial Internacional por 8 dias. A missão então privada da Axiom, em conjunto com a SpaceX e NASA. Então lembrando sempre de vocês aí estar se inscrevendo no canal, curtindo, comentando e compartilhando aí as nossas transmissões. Lembrando que no dia 31 devemos ter aí a missão Starlink, só estou aguardando aí apenas a confirmação então do horário, né, para a missão Starlink de amanhã.
Good morning, everyone. We are awaiting Dragon Freedom's departure from the
E aí
International
estamos
Space
então
Station
ao
in
vivo
order to
já,
head
então
back
com a
to
transmissão da
planet Earth.
SpaceX
We
em
expect
conjunto com
Freedom
a
to push
Axiom
away
e
from the space
NASA.
station at 8:05 a.m.
Então
Pacific time
transmitindo
or
para vocês
11:05
aí a
a.m.
parte então
Eastern
da
time with the
desacoplagem
crew of AX2,
da
Peggy
Dragon
Whitson,
Freedom na
Shoffner,
Estação Espacial
Alqarni, and
Internacional.
Rayyanah Barnawi, who spent the last 8 days living and working
Lembrando então
on
que a
board the space
desacoplagem está
station.
prevista para
In preparation
acontecer
for
a
departure,
meio-dia
a
e
short while ago,
5
the
no
AX2
horário
crew
de
suited up and
Brasília.
the Dragon and station hatches were sealed. My name is Jesse Anderson. I'm a production manager here at SpaceX
Então na parte da
headquarters in
manhã já
Auburn,
foi então
California.
feita o
And joining me
fechamento
today is
e
Duke Brady,
a
a
selagem
multimedia
da
specialist with
escotilha da
Axiom
cápsula
Space.
Dragon.
Jesse, it's great to be here with you. And you might say for the AX2 crew, it's all downhill from here.
It is. And guiding us through the
E agora
action
estamos
today
aguardando
as Dragon departs station
apenas
is
então a
NASA's
liberação
Public Affairs
para
Officer Sandra
o dock
Jones at NASA's
ou
Johnson Space
desacoplagem.
Center in Houston, Texas. How's it going, Sandra?
Hey Jesse, hey Duke, thanks so much. Great to be here with you both today. Everything going well
E aí
here
também
in
estamos
Mission
ao vivo
Control
lá
Houston.
em
The
Houston,
team
no
just
centro de
recently
controle
wrapped up the hatch
então
closure
da Estação
procedures, and
Espacial
we're looking
Internacional.
forward to a smooth on-time undocking later this morning.
This is live coverage of the beginning of the return to Earth for AX2, the second Axiom space mission to the International Space Station. This webcast will follow the crew's departure from the ISS and conclude once they have exited the approach ellipsoid, which is the imaginary outer boundary of the ISS. Then tonight, Axiom and SpaceX will pick back up with live coverage starting about an hour before splashdown to share the conclusion of this mission. For those of you following along, AX2 crew consists of
Então, de acordo com a programação da SpaceX, né, o splashdown então vai acontecer por volta então de 23 horas e 2 minutos no horário do leste, meia-noite e 2 no horário do Brasil, horário de Brasília. E então tá aí a tripulação, né, que está a bordo então nesse momento da Freedom, Dragon Freedom. E nós vamos ter live também para a transmissão então da chegada deles, retorno deles da Terra. Então, acompanhar por volta então das 11 horas da noite, né, nós vamos ter então live aí para o procedimento então do retorno da tripulação da Dragon Freedom, o famoso splashdown.
But before that begins, we get to share their journey back to Earth with all of you right now.
For return, we look at a number of weather items. Some of the obvious ones are no rain or no chance of lightning in the recovery zone, both for the safety of the crew inside the capsule and the recovery teams on the water. We also are looking for wind speeds less than 10 miles per hour and relatively calm seas so that we can safely perform recovery operations, which includes landing a helicopter on the recovery ship to fly our crew back to shore. Once Dragon departs station, the crew's flight home is expected to last approximately 12 hours. Dragon will also execute a phasing burn to lower its orbit and line the spacecraft up with its landing locations. These 4 departure burns will gradually increase the distance between the spacecraft and the space station. Dragon will also execute a phasing burn to lower its orbit and line the spacecraft up with its landing location. Then the action starts to pick up pace with trunk separation, closure of the nose cone, a deorbit burn, re-entry, deployment of the drogue and main parachutes, and finally splashdown off the coast of Florida, at which point our teams will recover the AX2 crew. Dragon is targeted to splash down off the coast of Florida this evening at 8:09 p.m. Pacific time or 11:09 p.m. Eastern time, followed by the crew getting picked up at sea by one of our SpaceX recovery vessels. For those of you interested in keeping tabs on the mission, be sure to check out the Follow Dragon tracker on SpaceX.com.
And as a reminder, just like its approach to the International Space Station, Dragon's departure and deorbit is designed to be fully autonomous, requiring no
11 horas e 50 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos aí acompanhando aí a transmissão do procedimento então do início da desacoplagem da Dragon Freedom na Estação Espacial Internacional.
Thanks, Duke, and welcome to Mission Control Houston at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. We're currently inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where the team of flight controllers are being led by NASA Flight Director Marcos Flores. Earlier this morning, we brought you live coverage of hatch closure, in which the Axiom 2 crew suited up, re-entered the SpaceX Freedom vehicle, and closed the hatch between the International Space Station and Freedom.
Lembrando também que a empresa PLD Space da Espanha vai realizar então o primeiro teste de voo do veículo Miura, aí também no dia 31 de maio agora, né? Eles vão realizar então o primeiro teste de voo, sendo que esse teste de voo então é para coletar o máximo de dados possíveis aí durante então o seu percurso, né? Para poder utilizar depois nas futuras missões.
Dragon, SpaceX on the Big Loop, final reconfigurations for undocked, complete and nominal. Houston and Hawthorne have
Então nesse momento já está
start at 1500 and separation at 1505. When ready, confirm visors down and crew are ready for undock and departure.
Então, como podemos observar, então já está confirmada aí a conclusão então do procedimento da desacoplagem. A nave então já está configurada então para o procedimento de início de desacoplagem da Estação Espacial.
This is one of many checkpoints in the return that will continue all the way up until just before the deorbit burn. This gives mission managers multiple chances to assess the weather at the splashdown zones and just make sure everything is lining up before Dragon departs. So we'll stand by for that final go, no-go, but for now, everything continuing to look good for an on-time departure.
Então, como eu falei anteriormente, está aí já confirmado então o procedimento do início da desacoplagem, né, da configuração então da desacoplagem da Dragon Freedom na Estação Espacial. Agora só estamos aguardando então a liberação para a desacoplagem, que acontecerá daqui a pouquinho, a meio-dia e 5. Então foi confirmada então a liberação para a saída da Dragon ao meio-dia e 5.
Currently, Dragon is in its final configuration before undocking. Now, just like
Ainda não temos imagens ainda da Dragon, né? Porque estamos aí no período sem comunicação, né? Nesse momento. Período de blackout de comunicação com rádio. Então, por isso que não temos imagens aí da Dragon.
The International Space Station, the flight home is expected to last a little more than 12 hours. Dragon will use its Draco thrusters to thrust away from the station in a series of
Estamos aguardando as imagens voltar da Dragon e a comunicação também.
Dragon will also execute a phasing burn to lower its orbit and line the spacecraft up with the landing zone. Today's splashdown zone is off the coast of Florida. We're targeting Panama City. The weather looking great in Panama City. Now, following the phasing burn to lower Dragon's orbit, the action will really start to pick up with trunk separation, closure of the nose cone, deorbit burn, the reentry burn, and then deployment.
11h55.
Parachutes. Finally, splashdown will occur off the coast of Florida. Following splashdown, the Axiom-2 crew will be recovered from Freedom and placed on board the recovery vessel before flying on a helicopter back to land.
Faltam então aí 10 minutos para a desacoplagem. Estamos aí no centro de controle em Houston, na sala então de controle da Estação Espacial Internacional. Faltando então 10 minutos aí para a desacoplagem da Dragon Freedom na Estação Espacial Internacional pela missão Axiom-2. Após 8 dias em órbita na Estação Espacial Internacional.
So now we are waiting for the undocking sequence to actually begin. Once that happens, it will take less than 5 minutes for
Estamos aguardando as imagens voltar da Estação Espacial.
The first step in the automatic undocking sequence is for the umbilicals to retract. These umbilicals connect Dragon's systems to the space station, transferring power, telemetry, and commands between the two vehicles throughout Dragon's stay. Once umbilical separation is complete, Dragon will unlatch itself from the space station by releasing.
Então, lembrando que o splashdown vai acontecer então por volta de 00:09 no horário de Brasília do dia 31.
Less than 5 minutes, and then Dragon will be ready to depart from space station and push itself away further by using its thrusters. Now, Dragon's initial departure from space station is a little different than other docked vehicles like the Soyuz that rely on springs to push them away from the docking port. Dragon will actually execute 2 short thruster firings to undock using a combination of the
Estamos então aguardando apenas as imagens e dados de telemetria então voltarem. A gente dá continuidade aí à parte então da desacoplagem da Dragon Freedom.
Slowly backs the spacecraft away. So we are expecting the call for the undocking sequence to begin in just a few minutes from now.
11h57 no horário de Brasília. Estamos então acompanhando o procedimento então de início da saída da Dragon Freedom na Estação Espacial Internacional pela missão Axiom-2. Estamos só apenas aguardando as imagens retornar.
All right, and we are just a couple of minutes away from the undocking command to be sent. Again, it will be about a 5-minute process between the time the undocking command is sent and the time Dragon actually undocks from the International Space Station. Once that undocking command is sent, the first thing we'll be looking for a call out for is that umbilicals will retract. Then we'll be looking ahead to the hooks to open in 2 sets of sticks, and then 2 short undocking burns will occur, marking the official undocking of Crew Dragon Freedom from the International Space Station.
Meio-dia no horário de Brasília, estamos então acompanhando o procedimento da desacoplagem da Dragon Freedom da Estação Espacial Internacional pela missão Axiom-2. Faltando apenas aí 5 minutos para a desacoplagem. Voltamos. Nesse momento, então, estamos iniciando a sequência de desacoplagem, a sequência de undocking. Desacoplagem. Sequência então iniciada nesse momento.
Hearing good calls on the movement of those umbilicals so far.
Umbilical demate complete and nominal.
Umbilical demate was successful and as expected.
4 minutos para desacoplagem.
So the umbilical has been retracted in the first set of hooks. That first set of 6 are beginning to retract. Again, the umbilical has fully retracted and the first set of 6 hooks of 12 are also retracting. Each of these
Estamos aí então a 4 minutos da desacoplagem da Dragon.
And on your screen you can see the team here in Mission Control Houston.
Três minutos então para a desacoplagem.
We're currently still in what we call integrated operations while we're working alongside SpaceX and Axiom, but following the undocking and exit from the approach ellipsoid this morning, we'll turn it over to Axiom and SpaceX to take it the rest of the way home as Crew Dragon Freedom prepares to splash down off the coast of Panama City, Florida this evening at 10:04 p.m. Central Time. That first set of 6 hooks continuing to retract.
Dragon, SpaceX on the big loop, first set of hooks open and nominal.
O procedimento aí está tudo correndo bem aí até o momento, né? Para a desacoplagem acontecer. 12:03 no horário de Brasília. Faltando então 2 minutos para a desacoplagem.
The second set of hooks are now in the process of retracting.
Até o momento então tudo indo de acordo aí com o cronograma, né, da desacoplagem.
This second set of hooks will take about 2 minutes as well to retract.
12:04, apenas 1 minuto para a desacoplagem.
And we're about halfway through that second set of hooks.
Então, lembrando que o splashdown deve acontecer por volta de 00:09 no horário de Brasília, no dia 31.
Second set of hooks continuing to retract.
12:05 no horário de Brasília. Estamos só aguardando apenas a confirmação então da desacoplagem. Assim como na acoplagem. Assim como então na acoplagem não temos aí imagens da... Aí, portanto, desacoplagem confirmada. A 12:05 no horário de Brasília, confirmada então a desacoplagem da Dragon Freedom. Imagens então direto da Dragon.
So Dragon has started to push itself away from the International Space Station And with that, Peggy Whitson, John Shoffner, Ali Alqarni, and Rayyanah Barnawi have completed their journey aboard the International Space Station.
Após 8 dias na Estação Espacial Internacional.
10:05 a.m. Central Time.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, depart burn 0 nominal.
Peggy copies, and thank you for the hospitality. ISS.
And we are hearing good confirmation of those undocking burns. You also heard some work.
And Axiom-2, it was a pleasure having you on board. We really appreciate all the hard work. Congratulations on an outstanding mission. Thank you for all your
Então temos aí imagens de dentro da Dragon Freedom. Nesse momento, então, ela deixou aí a Estação Espacial Internacional. Vocês podem observar, então, nas imagens.
And Houston copies.
And some kind words there between Axiom-2 Commander Peggy Whitson and Steve Bowen, who's on board the International Space Station monitoring today's undocking. Now, lit up against the International Space Station there, you just saw the flashes from the thrusters as those departure burns continue to take place. These short burns help increase the speed at which Dragon is flying away from the space station and start to send it on a trajectory up and over the International Space Station. And there you can
Estamos aí então com as belas imagens, né, trazidas da Dragon, no processo então de afastamento da Estação Espacial Internacional.
The next burn that we're tracking is the departure burn, which will help increase the initial opening rate between the Crew Dragon and the space station. This burn will last about 21 seconds. And this departure burn 1 is slated to begin just about 2 minutes from now. Following this burn, the crew will start to take off their space.
Lembrando então mais uma vez que o splashdown então da Dragon deve acontecer por volta então de 00:09 no dia 31. Aí em torno então da região da Flórida, nos Estados Unidos.
And then they'll put their spacesuits back on ahead of splashdown later this evening. Now 1 minute until the departure burn 1 begins. Again, this 21-second burn is going to help continue to propel Freedom away from the International Space Station. And shortly after the departure burn occurs, Freedom will exit the keep out
Então, nesse momento já está começando então a acontecer aí o procedimento de descida de órbita da Dragon Freedom.
And it's one of several safety zones that's set up to govern visiting spacecraft either arriving or departing the space station. Before moving into the keep out sphere, spacecraft have to be configured where they would not cross the imaginary boundary for at least 4 orbits, even if the spacecraft were to lose all of its maneuvering. Depart burn 1 underway.
Temos imagens aí da Dragon.
And you are seeing some of those thruster firings on board Dragon.
Está fazendo então seu procedimento de afastamento da Estação Espacial.
Departure burn 1 nominal, and all Dragon systems look healthy. Good on dock. At this time, you are go to DOF suits in 4.012, and finally a reminder that the big loop will be deactivated following Dragon's exit from the approach ellipsoid.
Então, até o momento está tudo acontecendo, ocorrendo bem aí, processo então de afastamento da Dragon. Estamos aí nos aproximando então naquela zona de 400 metros da Estação Espacial.
And with that call out of a successful departure burn 1, the crew now has the go to get out of their spacesuits and get comfortable for the 12-hour journey until splashdown.
Lembrando aí que também para o dia 31 deveremos ter aí também mais uma missão Starlink. Só estou apenas aguardando a confirmação do horário pela SpaceX.
Continuing to get some views.
E também no dia 31, na madrugada do dia 31, aqui no Brasil, a Espanha então realizará aí o seu primeiro teste de voo com a Miura, né, pela empresa PLD Space. Onde então esse teste tem como objetivo então de coletar o máximo de dados possível para então realizar para as próximas missões.
It's that imaginary sphere 200 meters in radius around the International Space Station.
Estamos agora a 200 metros da Estação Espacial Internacional, né? Procedimento então de afastamento. Estamos então na primeira zona de heliosfera, né? Em torno da Estação Espacial Internacional, né? Uma imaginária, né? Esfera, né? De 200 metros de raio aí. Estamos então acompanhando todo o procedimento de afastamento então da Dragon Freedom, que fez a desacoplagem agora há pouco, ao 12h05, na Estação Espacial Internacional, pela missão Axiom-2, após 8 dias em órbita.
The next major milestone that we are tracking this morning is when Dragon exits the approach ellipsoid, or AE. This is another imaginary shape. It's a 3-dimensional ellipsoid measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. It's in the same family as the keep-out sphere. One of the key differences with the approach ellipsoid is that vehicles
E
outside
portanto,
Apps
imagens
will
da
follow a
Dragon,
24-hour safe free drift
da Estação
trajectory.
Espacial Internacional.
And we're getting some really great views of Dragon here as it continues to undock from the International Space Station. You can see the nose cone is open and the trunk is attached. Before splashdown, the nose cone will close and that trunk will be deorbited.
Estamos aí com imagens então da Dragon. Ainda com a parte então do nariz aberto. Lembrando que quando tivermos aí a parte então do procedimento do splashdown, não teremos essa parte de trás aí da Dragon e nem o nariz ficará fechado. Justamente então nessa parte aí do nariz também, onde fica acoplada aí os paraquedas. Qualquer valor, amigo, qualquer valor. Basta apontar aí a câmera no QR Code, né, do PIX. E aí você pode doar qualquer valor aí, certo? Então, mais uma vez aí, imagens da Dragon. Lembrando então que a desacoplagem aconteceu agora há pouco, ao 12h05, no horário de Brasília. Informando então a vocês, né, da missão tripulada chinesa, né, que aconteceu ontem, né? Eles chegaram então já na Estação Espacial de Tiangong pela manhã. E está tudo ok, eles já estão a bordo na Estação Espacial de Tiangong.
Dragon has completed a series of burns to back it away from the International Space Station, and again, everything going A-OK this morning here in Mission Control Houston. So I'm going to toss it over to Hawthorne to give us an update, and so they can share a little bit about what it was like to see undocking from their perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandra. If you're just now joining us, you are watching the undocking of the Dragon Freedom vehicle carrying the AX-2 crew members as they make their way back down home to Earth. And just as Dragon fully autonomously flew to the International Space Station, it is fully autonomously flying them back down to Earth as well. So all these maneuvers that you're seeing are fully autonomous.
Então vimos aí então agora há pouco, né, o procedimento de desacoplagem feito aí com sucesso, o procedimento então de afastamento na Estação Espacial Internacional. Então lembrando que a expectativa então para o splashdown, né, irá acontecer aí à 00:09 no horário de Brasília no dia 31. Logo mais então avisarei aí, darei então o link da live para vocês aí daqui a pouquinho. Ao longo do dia então estarei aí disponibilizando para vocês aí o link da live para a gente acompanhar então o procedimento do splashdown.
Wow, exciting stuff. Well, and for Axiom Space, these missions serve as a precursor in developing the teams, systems, and relationships necessary to operate our own Axiom station currently under construction. For Peggy Whitson, John Shoffner, and Saudi national astronauts Alqarni and Rayyanah Barnawi, this has been an incredibly successful mission. As the second private mission to the International Space Station, Axiom-2 is also an important step for Axiom Space and its academic and industrial partners to perform proof of concept studies and cutting-edge advancements in microgravity. During their time on the orbiting laboratory, the AX-2 astronauts successfully executed over 20 STEAM outreach engagements and 20 different microgravity experiments, as well as 8 media events. They utilized novel technologies on orbit that could be used for future human spaceflight pursuits and benefit humankind on Earth. Returning with them in the SpaceX Dragon Freedom is more than 300 pounds of cargo and important data that will impact our understanding of human physiology on Earth and on orbit. And beyond all that, they also had a few moments to take in a view unlike any found on Earth, looking at the planet from 250 miles above it. So for more details on the incredible work performed by this crew and on orbit, check out the axiomspace.com/AX2 research website. It's going to be pretty incredible to see all of the work that they perform on station brought back and those data analyzed and everything really given sort of its full breadth of knowledge once they get back here on Earth.
Yeah, Duke, this has been an incredible mission so far, and we're going to send it back over to Houston, Texas Mission Control with Sandra Jones. How's it going, Sandra?
Thanks, Jesse and Duke. Everything's still continuing to go smoothly here in Mission Control Houston. We are standing by for Dragon Freedom to exit that approach ellipsoid. Again, this is a 4 kilometer by 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer zone around the International Space Station, in which a vehicle must be on a 24-hour safe trajectory from interfering with space station, even if it lost all maneuvering capability.
Estamos ainda então com as imagens da missão Axiom-2.
We are just a few minutes away from that expected approach ellipsoid exit. Now, once that approach ellipsoid exit does occur, the team here in Mission Control will continue to monitor every step of the way, but the prime responsibility once they exit approach ellipsoid will be on SpaceX and Axiom Space.
Lembrando então que a desacoplagem aconteceu com sucesso, meio-dia e 5, horário de Brasília.
For 10:25 a.m. Central.
E o splashdown então deve acontecer por volta da 00:09 no horário de Brasília, no dia 31. Isso de acordo então com o horário da SpaceX.
Another thing that will happen once the crew exits the approach ellipsoid is that integrated communications loop called the big loop will be taken down, as we are no longer in those integrated communications. And at this time, Crew Dragon Freedom is 916 meters away from the International Space Station.
Estamos agora dirigindo a marca então de 1 quilômetro, né, de afastamento aí da Estação Espacial Internacional, de acordo com a informação dada aí para vocês. Agora.
Just about a minute until expected exit from the approach ellipsoid.
Dragon, SpaceX, comcheck on Dragon to ground.
SpaceX Dragon, comcheck. How do you read us on Dragon to ground?
Hey Peggy, we've got you 5x5 on Dragon to ground over, I'm assuming, the cabin mic. At this time, we've just exited the approach ellipsoid, and Dragon is on a safe free drift trajectory, and I'm letting you know that we're going to take down the big loop here shortly.
Okay, copy. Thank you.
And we did get that confirmation that Dragon has successfully exited the approach ellipsoid and is continuing their journey back to Earth. So with that, from here in Mission Control Houston, we will conclude our coverage of this mission and hand it over to the teams at SpaceX and Axiom to take it from here. Thank you so much for joining us for our coverage today of hatch closure and undocking. Until next time, this is Mission Control Houston.
Awesome. Thank you,
Então, nesse
Sandra.
momento também
Now that
estamos
Peggy
encerrando
Whitson,
aí
John
a nossa
Shoffner,
transmissão de hoje, né? Quero
Rayyanah
agradecer aí
Barnawi have departed the International
vocês
Space
pela
Station. It will only take
audiência,
them
pela
roughly 12 hours until they make their way back down to Earth. Next
pelas
up, the crew will
inscrições,
dock their
pelos
spacesuits
likes
to
e
get
pelos
a little bit more
donates.
comfy for flight.
Agradecer
After a brief
então aí a
off-duty
todo mundo
period, the crew will then begin final
sempre então
cabin
tá aqui
and
acompanhando as
in-cabin
nossas
preparations.
transmissões.
In
Lembrando então
approximately 6.5 hours from now, they will
que mais
don
tarde aí
or put
então
back
divulgarei
on their
aí o link
spacesuits and begin final
para a gente
preparations for the
acompanhar
orbit
então
entry and
o
splashdown.
procedimento então do
Our teams
splashdown
here on the ground will
da
continue to
Dragon
keep an eye
Freedom
on the
pela
weather
missão
to ensure a safe
Axiom-2.
return
Fiquem ligados
to
aí.
Earth for Dragon and the AX-2 crew.
And should the current projections hold, starting at 11:04 p.m. Eastern and 8:04 p.m. Pacific this evening, Axiom and SpaceX will pick back up with live coverage of the conclusion of this AX-2 mission. Should teams need to adjust the timing of splashdown, it is our plan to go live about an hour before splashdown. For the latest on the timing of this final stage of the AX-2 journey, be sure to visit axiomspace.com, and you can track Dragon Freedom's flight on spacex.com/launches. From all of us at Axiom Space, thank you to NASA for the incredible efforts made on this mission toward the shared goal of expanding access to low Earth orbit to include more countries, institutions, industries, and individuals than ever before. This is how we are building history. And thank you, Jesse, for sharing the desk with me. It's been an honor. And thank you for tuning in, all of you. Spasiba, shukran. We look forward to sharing the culmination of this mission with you soon.
Então é isso, mais uma vez agradecer então pela audiência de vocês e nos vemos então mais tarde com o procedimento então da splashdown. Por hora então eu fui, desejo a todos vocês um ótimo dia e nos vemos então mais tarde.